Welcome to Rainbow Soul Vodcast, where our Soulstrology comes forward to help you manage your everyday life, with forecasts and deep dives on natal charts and queer perspectives on the planets, transits, and more. A group discussion about upcoming transits with tips on how to read these transits in your own chart. Hollis offers years of wisdom and natal chart knowledge with Bright Hawk's positive perspective and Lacrosse's inquiry. We offer the complete queer astrology experience. Welcome to Rainbow Soul. Please help us by subscribing, sharing, and commenting and reviewing. You can also learn where else Rainbow Soul is offered on our website at rainbowsoul.show.
Welcome to Rainbow Soul. This is Hollis of Soulstrology. This is your Soulstrology forecast for the
June 12th to the 18th.
So glad you remembered numbers. June 12th to the 18th. Thank goodness she doesn't get upset if I forget our anniversary or something.
You're very good at not forgetting those kind of things and always making our anniversary very special. So,
and all right, and I'm Hollis, and you can check out my website, divineandrogen.com. The link is in the description. I have a book, I offer readings, and all kinds of fun stuff like that.
Hi there, I'm Bright Hawk. You can learn more about me at brighthawkproductions.com. I'm the author of the award-winning The Dancing Hippo, a gender-free book, gender-neutral book, and story of resilience. And the ebook is also at Bright Hawk Productions, which is a lot of fun. Us performing, and there's many songs, and it's a good time.
Yeah.
And I'm back.
Welcome back.
I missed last week. I'm Lacrosse Ortiz. There's my book, The Fool's Journey Color Journal. I'm the author of that. And, well, I don't know much of an author, just some little insights. So it's just a coloring book. And it has words in it that you can ponder and color and journal all at the same time. You can order that on Amazon, and there is a link in the description. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So
Fabulous.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to invite you to take a little meditation in this moment before we get started with the forecast. Try to put your feet flat on the ground, on the floor. Try not to cross your legs or hands so that the energy can flow in and around you. And take a deep breath. And I invite you to imagine yourself out under the night sky. And as you stare deep into the stars and notice how they seem to go on forever, how some of them are bright and some of them are dim, you can focus on the more dim stars, and one of them doesn't twinkle, but it starts to come closer to you. Coming closer and closer, you realize that this star is actually a planet. And as it comes close to you, you are introduced to Pluto. Pluto in their vastness, like a big ball of air. It barely seems solid. But what Pluto feels to you is not just vast and huge. Right now, it's kind of going backwards in the sky. It's moving back to a place it was before, pushing itself backwards into Capricorn, going back and revisiting the groundedness, the systems, the control, the power dynamics of our world, the money systems, and even the systems within our own lives, and the money in our life, and how we do things, and control and power. And as we feel this vast planet going back into Capricorn, cold and steady moving backwards, we can feel its destiny, its fate, as if to say, those changes, those revelations, I told you to change that. They asked you to change it, and they just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. Are we aligned? Are we including everyone? Are we doing things for the better for ourselves? Our intention is to find better ways to do things. Change is hard, yes, but sometimes we must change. Offering transformation. Pluto pulls you forward into the next chapter of your life as Pluto reaches back into Capricorn just to make sure, just to check, make sure there was nothing else that needed to be done, and finishes anything that may not have gotten finished. And as we feel the next chapter of our life start to unfold and be defined, Pluto slowly fades back up into the sky. And we recognize that within each and every one of us, change is on the horizon. And as we sink back down into our seats and allow that massive energy to be big in our world, we relax into our skin, into our bones and our body, and we take a deep breath. Come into our bodies in the here and now. And stretch our hands, stretch our fingers, stretch our toes, wiggle our toes. Open your eyes and come back into your here and now. Good job, Bright Hawk.
Taking them deep, got to bring them back out.
Yeah.
Always happy to be your music magic carpet ride.
Thank you, Bright Hawk.
Thank you for your always deep meditations.
Yeah. Oh man, I've had to think a lot about Pluto. I'm just gonna say in the last couple of months or the last couple of years, we've had quite a intense dance with Pluto, I feel like the whole world.
It definitely feels like
Yeah.
I've never been so aware of Pluto as I have been the last 3 years.
Yeah, and it's not just because we started studying astrology intensely for the pandemic. I mean, that's pretty much what we did.
Pretty much, yeah.
But we also I was a little bit, I mean, I was aware of astrology before then, and we did watch reports, but I just feel like Pluto's intensity coming through the end of Capricorn and into Aquarius that's what we've all been feeling, like the government changing, like our money systems, and even like feeling like our government could just get overturned at any time. That kind of feeling, and like the whole January 6th thing. Didn't something happen on that day astrologically?
Yeah,
I know Ann Ortley predicted it pretty much.
A number of astrologers did. It was I'm not going to remember exactly what it was right now, but
yeah,
it was
but
a
I'm
very
pretty
big astrological event that said literally this is going to be a revolutionary day, and it was.
Yeah, it was.
Definitely was.
Yeah. So and just recognize, and I'm pretty sure Pluto had something to do with it. And it just every time we turn around, Pluto's involved in something, and just having to dive deep, like what is Pluto about, and thinking about it being a higher resonance of Mars sometimes can help. But it's also more about change than I think Mars is. Like Mars is action, but
Pluto is like generational change, like big moves, like it resides. It's been in Capricorn for like 20 years,
right?
And I think it came in when it came into Capricorn. I think that was one of the crashes. The recession,
because it has to do with the money systems in Capricorn. Because Capricorn rules a lot of our systems, our monies and things like that. I'm curious to see what happens to us while Pluto is back in Capricorn now for the next, I think it's like a year, or at least until 2024.
Well, Capricorn, Pluto will be retrograde. It's now finally, it's sat there for the longest time at like 0 degrees Aquarius, like super slow mover.
Yeah, for a couple months.
So it actually went retrograde May 1st, but it's been like the slowest ever for the last month. It'll be retrograde until October 10th. And then it'll slow down to nothing. And then, slowly crawl.
I think it's sometime in 2024 it comes back into Aquarius.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't write that down, but I wrote down the October 10th retrograde finishes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just happen to know that. So you can see Pluto in the chart here. If you take a look, it's down in the 5th house. And it's actually part of this grand trine in Earth. So that's interesting that after all of those grand crosses and everything else that was really intense in the last couple of weeks, now this grand trine gets really strong.
For sure.
And it's in Pluto in Capricorn. Part of me is like, Bitcoin? Because, I believe Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies have something to do with the whole Pluto and Capricorn thing.
Interesting.
So what's going to happen in a trine when Pluto comes back in? And I mean, I don't know for sure. I'm just guessing. But Pluto in Capricorn, I'm also gonna, so if you're a crypto, if you have some crypto, even if you just got $50 in Venmo or something like that in crypto, take a look at it, or buy it now while it's low, and you know if you've already got the money sitting there. Crypto is an interesting thing. So there's also, if you look at this though, the grand trine involves Taurus. See Vesta in Taurus up there, and then also Ceres and Virgo. They're all so practical and grounded, and that's
Very earth.
yeah, it's very earthy. Thank goodness, the government decided not to shut us down. Once again, we have to play this drama every year. And so that's already happened. So I'm wondering if that has parted, but the Grand Trine's been going on for like a week and gets stronger in the beginning of this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if it has something to do with that, but some of that could go on. And what I also noticed was that trine, that Mars and Athena, and you probably noticed it too.
Yeah.
The moon and Chiron sort of coming into conjunct there in the 8th house.
Yeah, some really sweet aspects on Monday. We start off the week with the moon is waning, of course. We're going to have a new moon at the end of the week, at the end of this report. That's where we finish on a new moon. But for the moment, it's shrinking down, crescent moon, and it's trine Mars, trine Pallas Athena, and trine Lilith. So all those trines mean blessings, blessings, and the sun and the moon are sextile. So Monday should be really blessed up day because, and take good care of yourself because the moon is also conjunct Chiron. So shining bright on what you've come through, who you are as a healer, doing something nice for yourself with that Pallas Athena and Lilith. Yeah,
and the Mars and Athena, I was thinking about the two of them together, like, action, and Athena being
Pallas Athena is a strategic.
Strategic. So like thinking. Strategic action. I was thinking, gosh, the two of them together. Yeah. So, and I think you're right about, like taking care of yourself and the moon. The whole women feminist thing, that's going to really intensify this week, by the way.
Yeah.
So we could start seeing like some things in there because Lilith is, I think it's in a day on Tuesday. Not quite. Yeah. On Tuesday, Lilith moves into Leo. And Lilith is the feminist. I mean, if you were going to say any of the asteroids were a feminist, Lilith is definitely the strong feminist. She's powerful. She's also sexual. She's also very intensely independent and when you think about powerful sexual women, women that held their sexual power as much as they held everything else. That's Lilith, okay? And she's in Leo, which is like a fire sign, right? She moves into Leo, and in that moment, as she enters Leo, she also becomes in opposition to Pluto.
Right, and conjuncts Venus, so more powerful female energy, feminine energy. So that conjunction with Venus and Lilith opposite Pluto becomes a T-square to the Jupiter and then the North Node and the Moon. It's a loose T-square. It's definitely the 8 degrees. Stretch it and you get there. But you see that the Moon is just going to ba-boom, first conjunct North Node, ba-boom, then conjunct Jupiter, ba-boom. You see how there's a stellium, a party going on in the 9th house.
Yeah, where the Moon,
career,
the North Node, and Jupiter.
Well, except this your house wouldn't be dependent on.
Right, so you don't read the house systems.
But just so you know where we are, there's 2 different stelliums going on in the chart. One of the stelliums is in Leo, and one of the stelliums is in Taurus, Earth and Fire.
Yeah, and for this, I'm just thinking about, it's usually about taking action and doing something that is that's what a square is. It's about taking action, that you take a certain action that makes things better. And sometimes that action is like a problem solving action, like you're trying to solve a problem. So so thinking about that, and it being with Lilith and the feminist, and I'm just like going, oh my.
So it's flow energy on Monday, and Tuesday and Wednesday, it's like, what are you going to do about it? Because it's square, 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 square.
Yeah.
Moon square Pluto, moon square Venus, conjunct the North Node in Jupiter. We already talked about the T-square. Wednesday it squares Mars, squares Venus, squares Lilith, squares Pallas Athena. You get what I'm saying? Whenever we've noticed this over and over, right? If it's a trines, usually 2 days later, it's going to be squares. The sky is always moving. So a lot of energy in Taurus. So if you have strong Taurus placements, things are just lit up there. And of course, if you have any Leo placements, it's lit up there. And then when you look at it, those degrees, that all becomes squaring each other, the multiple planet squares. So,
yeah, I was noticing that most of the Leo planets were squaring Taurus, and just all of a sudden there,
boom,
all
boom,
you
boom,
can
boom,
think about is Leo, about nobility and doing the right thing and integrity and
Stay with that vote.
leadership. And then you got Taurus, which is more about like always doing things the same way. How have we always done it? And sometimes Taurus can be very stubborn and but also luxurious, liking money, so stuff having to do with money, and luxuries and other sort of like gifts or privileges. That's pretty much Taurus, and it's squaring Leo. And sometimes Leo can be arrogant and sort of like know-it-all type. But you know what? With Venus and Mars and Leo and Lilith, all that feminine, masculine energy, it makes me also, because Mars and Venus are coming together like that, it makes me want to look at the drag community, especially with everything that's been going on. One of the things that I've noticed about reading queer charts is, since I usually talk about Uranus, I'm going to bring this up, is that Mars and Venus, in a lot of people that cross-dress or do drag or are very gender fluid, they sometimes have Mars and Venus conjunct or in opposition. And I find it fascinating. It doesn't mean every person out there that has Mars and Venus conjunct is a crossdresser. Okay, please. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what I notice when looking at my friends' charts that are queer is that Venus and Mars are together, okay? And especially if they don't have other placements like around Uranus or Aquarius, and they just have Venus and Mars conjunct. And if nothing else, they usually, even if they're not a drag performer, they at least challenge the gender binary. They challenge it somehow, like there's a very butch woman in front of me or something like that. Okay. And so like I'm always like, yeah, but you you have your own way of challenge. You may not be a drag star, but you do it your own way. And so that's what I notice about Mars and Venus conjunct or in opposition. And so I'm curious to watch what's happening in our world about drag and all the crap that's been going on. We actually did have a blessing where, something in Tennessee, they found it unconstitutional or something, right? Okay, yeah. So that was a trine, right? And now we're moving into a square again. And so I'm kind of like, okay, so especially involving Taurus, the way we've always done things, which makes gender any kind of gender bending, like, no, you can't do that, right? Because we haven't always done it that way, or at least that's how they see it. That's typically the conservative perspective. So, and it's squaring Venus and Mars in Leo, and Leo's very noble, and Leo also likes everyone to be treated fairly. So, so I'm wondering if something's going to happen with the drag community or the trans community.
Interesting. Yeah, all that energy in Taurus, and the moon is very exalted in Taurus. The moon loves to be in Taurus, and of course, the next sign, will have a new moon in Gemini, of course, when it reaches the end there. But the moon in Taurus is very exalted and determined and trustworthy and warm and affectionate. Those are the things you want to harvest out of Taurus: artistic, creative. The challenge with Taurus is similar to the challenge with Leo. They can be obstinate, they can be arrogant, they can be stubborn, they can, be possessive and take it personally, and that's sort of the red zone, or the other side of it. So when we know both sides of it, try to harvest the positives that are similar in those two signs, because there's a lot of energy. And I know for me, because I have a Leo moon, that's what I'm always wary of. When my arrogant side, my righteous, know-it-all, bitchy self comes out, that's not my best self. That's not by no means I'm so proud of myself. Not at all. So, I try to lean into what can I do for somebody else? How can I be of service? What's really required in the greater scheme of things? If I can look at it from a bigger perspective, which is what Leo does really well, looking at it from a stand on top of the hill and look out over your kingdom and figure it out.
And Leo is normally a natural leader.
Yeah, you'll see. And so hopefully that helps you understand the Taurus energy. Definitely going to be a lot of conversations going back between those two.
Yeah. So, just noticing that square, all of those squares going back and forth, you can see all the red lines there. It's pretty much because there's like
a stellium in Leo, and a stellium in
it's like 4
Taurus.
planets in each. Yeah,
a stellium is 3 or more. Sorry, not to use jargon that some people might not know. In astrology, if there's a house that has, or a sign that has 3 or more in residence in there, that's a lot of energy, and we call that energy a stellium.
And it tends to be like a mixing pot.
Yeah.
The closer the degrees they are to each other, the more they mix. And then as they start to move away in degrees, that's how they start to, it's like pooling away oil from water, right? Okay. And so, they do mix together, and some of them better than others.
Yeah. When we get to Thursday, the choppiness of Tuesday and Wednesday should, hopefully Thursday starts to feel a little smoother. The moon is in a trine to Ceres. What are you looking after? It's in a trine to Pluto, which is lovely. Thank you. Glad that's happening. And also Thursday, the moon is a little less intense because it's a void moon still in Taurus, just the last degrees.
I noticed that Mars was trining Chiron on this day. And I was thinking,
Mars is trining Chiron.
That's action that you have done, action that you may do to help you heal old wounds. That's like, Chiron is those old wounds that you're carrying around in your backpack, because everybody has one and everybody has stuff that they carry around. Okay. And those wounds were probably put there by somebody else, or just maybe by your circumstances. And when Mars is pretty much action, and it's about doing something. So maybe you finally choose to not repeat those words that your mom told you. Maybe you finally decide to come out of the closet. Maybe you stand up for yourself or something like that. But Mars trining Chiron, I just feel like that's a moment, especially, and it could be done in a very noble, proud way. Like, and so, and especially thinking about it being Pride Month, all I can think about is like, this is you doing something big finally for yourself that has something to do with queerness, you know? If for especially for all queer people out there celebrating Pride and even allies and things like that. Hey, maybe it's been hard for you to outwardly support gay people because of the family you were born in, and you really do think it's right, and so you stand up for somebody or something like that. That would be a very Mars Chiron trine, and it could be really beautiful. So I'm just gonna say, especially with the other trine in Earth, and it could mean a special blessing for you.
Yay, blessings.
Yeah.
Blessings and blessings, I like to say.
And on Friday, I noticed that Lilith and Mars will be conjunct. They're pretty much the same degree, both in, and so that makes me think of, they're kind of Mars is very masculine, can sometimes be sexual, and can sometimes be very direct and forward, and so can Lilith, but she is the feminine version of Mars. Okay, and so like I'm kind of putting the two of them together, and I'm like, oh, here we go with drag again. Like, and I'm just wondering if that's going to come up again, because we're having that mixture of the masculine and feminine. We're literally mixing them.
I wondered, because that conjunction with Mercury, the moon and Mercury made me wonder. I wondered about that. So it's interesting that you said that.
Yeah, and look, it's trining Chiron, and so I'm kind of like, maybe whatever squares happened earlier in the week with it, maybe we're finding a better solution to it. We're finding some sort of peace in the queer community. Maybe we're finding our power in Pride. There's been a lot of talk this year about, I notice each Pride we grow as a community a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger. So we tend to focus on different things each year. And this year, it is very much about what I've been saying for years, is just because that company is now flying the rainbow flag doesn't necessarily mean you still should support the small queer company over here who's really owned by queer people. That company just is saying that they're supportive, and I'm glad that they are, but shouldn't you be supporting your queer cake maker? Okay, go buy your cake at a gay, go hire a gay accountant. Okay, go, you know what I'm saying? Just like people of color also talk about doing this for each other, and I try to make an effort to hire people of color instead. And that's another thing we can do, though, and I feel like there's a whole lot of talk about it this year, and I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. I don't know how many times I've seen it on like news channels and articles and stuff about it. It's interesting.
Yeah. And it's interesting that day is the dark moon as well. Friday's the dark moon, and then Saturday will be the new moon. When the sun and the moon meet together at 26 degrees Gemini, that will be the moment of the new moon, wherever you are, whatever time zone you're in. So when it's a dark moon, it's that squaring Saturn. So squaring Saturn feels a little challenging.
Mm-hmm. And it's conjunct Mercury at the same time.
I'm curious.
Yes, exactly. Conjunct Mercury.
Is there a difference between, I know we speak about the void moon. What is the difference between, or is that a dark moon? Like, is there a difference?
The dark moon is the day before the new moon.
Okay.
And a void moon is when the degree of the moon exceeds the degrees of the sun.
Okay.
So sometimes it's also called out of bounds, and some people call it a void of course moon. But what it means is basically it's not in its power. it's weaker. The effects of the moon are not as strong. That's another way you could put it.
And the new moon is when we plant seeds?
Yeah, new moon's a great time to plant seeds, set your intentions, your goal for the month, because of course we were looking for where do we want to be at the full moon? What do we want to be harvesting, really? Because that's the moment of the harvest, 2 weeks later, and then the resolution back to the new moon. So the cycle is definitely so I was going to say, you keep talking about Venus and Mercury, and I'm like, wow, I'm finding this is kind of interesting that this new moon is Gemini new moon. And Gemini is what? The twins.
Right. Oh, wow.
And I don't know about you, but the Geminis that I know, first I would say, the first thing I would say about Gemini is air, thinkers, quick, fun. They're generally fun. They can be the life of the party. They're very social and diplomatic, networky. So I'm finding it interesting that this new moon is in the twins with that, what we just talked about.
With Mars and Venus and Lilith over there in Leo,
Yeah.
demanding for their rights. And yeah, I find it interesting. And also the moon and Mercury are conjunct. They're with each other. So that tells me that there'll be some speaking of emotions. And that can get pretty strong in the drag community, as me and Lacrosse know pretty well. That could be, and thinking that it's Pride and it's Friday, June 16th. Oh man, some stuff could be said on stage. Let me just say, very easily, I can imagine, even in small town prides, something being said on even big town prides.
And may it be a beautiful blessing. May it be, because sextile with Venus on the 16th, there's a sextile with Moon and Venus, Moon sextile Mars, and on the new moon, on Saturday, the new moon, it'll be a sextile with Pallas Athena, a sextile with Chiron, and a sextile with Mars. Everybody's having sex. It's Pride weekend. Woo-hoo!
That's definitely happening.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. So it is, but it does look like as far as Pride goes, it's about like, I can see this being a really intense
Hopefully
week
blessed.
and blessing. And I think that regardless of what drag queens may or may not say on stage, there's an important part that can come up with drag, that even if sometimes we can just show who we really are, because some people have funny ideas about what drag is. It's actually just theater, you guys. It's not really.
It's not that complicated.
It's really not.
I just
Some people are sexual, but there's also sexual shows.
I found it very odd to hear that the military has agreed to not allow drag shows on the military bases. And I'm like, drag shows on military bases has been happening since South Pacific, right? Like so freaking long you can't even count.
Silly.
And now I'm like, oh my God.
So now all of the military guys are going to go out to the local gay bars. That's what's going to happen.
And I just thought, all I can do is shake my head going, this is the wrong conversation.
I don't know why we're so focused on drag queens anyway.
Because
how did that happen?
Yeah.
How did drag come into Target? But the fact that it is, and the fact that Venus and Mars are doing this dance in Leo this summer, during Pride Month, it's hard for me to ignore. So I'd be interested, my friends, especially other astrologers out there that might be listening, that have been, if you're at all interested in the queer perspective in astrology, which happens to be a huge interest of mine, I just want to watch and see what happens. So I think it'll be interesting. Saturn sextiling Jupiter, I noticed during this. And, Saturn in Pisces is pretty much about rebuilding our structures and rebuilding how things are done, and it's sextiling Jupiter. So that's really good news for us too, you know? Maybe people will start to realize that maybe drag wasn't as bad as we thought it was. And, you know, maybe it's okay if the kids go to a drag show, you know, it's really not the end of the world. And drag queens and kings and drag performers in general, most of the time, most of us know if we say, hey, there's going to be kids there, no adult themes, people won't do that most of the time. Most of us drag performers are adults, mature adults, and we don't do that. Okay? It's not that hard. That's what they tell you. If you're a drag performer, they just tell you that it could be kids there. So please don't do any adult numbers. It's not,
No
yeah. Y'all are making it bigger than it is. So yeah, so that's Friday, June 16th, right?
Yeah, and the new moon is on Saturday the 17th. Like I said, 26 degrees
Right.
Gemini.
Oh, and look at all those trines we got going on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and sextiles. More sextiles.
Yeah, very strong sextiles, very strong trine. Lilith trying Chiron, coming into an exact degree there pretty much. Lilith moves pretty quick. She moves pretty quickly. And you can see that she's there palling around with Pallas Athena. And those are both very feminine.
Strong feminist energy.
Like,
wow.
Female power, like, you know, Xena Warrior Princess meets, I don't even know, like some amazing sexual drag queen or something. I don't know. Lilith, you know, Lilith is like that. So, yeah, so it's a trine into Chiron, and it's about independence and becoming who we are. So that's good news.
Yeah.
And even at the end of the weekend, if you're going to any prides or anything like that, the trines are so strong by this weekend, by Saturday, Sunday, June 17th and 18th. I mean, it's just going to be huge blessings, amazing things coming into fruition, things manifesting that may have been waiting for a long time. And maybe even some ghosts from the past, with the South Node trining the Sun, Juno, and the Moon. All three of those. And I was like, oh, well, that could be about old ways or old things coming back and actually being a blessing or helpful somehow. So something from the past coming back to help you today.
Yeah, lots of blessings. The moon will be sextiling Mars and Jupiter and trining Saturn. Really nice blessed energy. And of course, then when the moon steps into Cancer, the moon comes home. And you know how it feels when you come home. It's like, I'm home. So that'll all be really make for a sweet Sunday. I'm happy for the weekend. The weekend looks nice. It might be a little challenging in the middle of the week, Tuesday and Wednesday. Not gonna lie, it looks a little intense.
Right.
A lot of squares, but
generally
we finish on a high note, so that's a good.
Yeah,
we'll take it. We'll take it.
Yeah.
What do you think, lacrosse?
Well, I found it interesting, like you're talking about on Friday the 16th and about Pride and all that. And we're still in the season of the deer, for those who don't know. And I don't think people realize, even within our own community, how strong we can be when there is unity. And with it being the season of the deer, which I didn't realize, that a herd can be up to 10,000 deer in one herd.
Wow.
Now, when you think of that, there are so much, and they work as a collective. Of course, you have a couple of antlers bang every now and again to get dominance, and I guess that could be anybody. But the whole point is that this is a whole community, and they function, and they're cautious when they go out, and which we are. Not everybody bullhorns. Some of us are not as much a bullhorn as others, But I mean, the whole point is that it's about uniting and realizing each of us have a part to play in this, you know, and that's what I found. And I thought it was, I always keep going back. I'm like, why the deer? Why the deer in June? It's hot. It's like this, it's like here. But the more that I'm seeing and I see the stars and how it's aligning with the season, it's pretty intense because this is a time of social. This is a time of going out. This is a time of being together. So it makes sense that this is a time of pride. But I think that right now, with the way that they're aligning, there's going to be a lot of unity that's going to like coming together where people are going to be like, yeah, no, you're not doing this. You're not taking these rights, or you're not, and it's not, we're not going to have to be aggressive, because when they see the number, like if you see one hunter and 10,000 deer, you may get one. But if they all charge you, what's going to happen to the hunter? He's not going to make it. So I think at this point in time, realize we are a big, large herd, and we can do a lot. So,
Especially when we all come together.
yes.
That's very
Yeah.
cool. I really appreciate that.
Reminds me of a
It's-
documentary I just seen. I think it was, but I don't think they were deer. I think they were bison or something, and they turned around towards a lion. So I'm not sure it was a bison. I can't remember what animal it was.
Was it? Well, it was
It'll
a
be an
lion.
antelope. Would it be an
Africa.
antelope?
It was probably water buffalo.
Yeah, water buffalo, those
Okay.
big guys. Yeah, that's what it was. And they all turn around and go against the lion.
Yeah.
So like they
And the
all,
lion knows if you piss off the herd, you stand no chance.
and then so then the
'Cause
lion
herds
actually backed
are
off.
Strong.
And I
Yeah.
think that's where we're at right now, because we've been patient, we've been tolerating,
Yeah.
but I think it's going to get to the point enough is enough, and people are going to be like, no, we're not having this. So,
Right.
Yeah.
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 so,
It feels to me that it's so obvious trying to distract people with
Yeah.
drag, worry about drag, when it's just so obviously not the problem.
Clearly.
And clearly we don't want to have the conversation of what the problem really is and why kids are really unsafe.
Mhm.
Why, the number one killer of kids now is guns.
Yep.
It's terrible. And I'm just
no,
like,
we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to do anything about it. We're not going to be responsible for what it's done to our communities. Instead, we're going to villainize the drag community and make a boogaloo out of nothing.
it's such a weird political tactic that I've
Yeah.
seen done over and over. They were I can't remember what they used to distract with, what they were distracting away from with the whole gay marriage thing. They really focused on gay marriage, and they were trying to distract from something else really
I
important.
remember that was about the
Yeah.
what
I think it's
I
the war.
recall, wasn't it? The reason they were distracting with the gay marriage was because something else needed to pass, and that was a violation of privacy.
Oh, is that what it
I
was?
recall.
Oh, the Patriot Act?
recall. I don't remember exactly what it was, but while people were focusing on gay marriage,
Right.
this was coming underlying. So I'm like,
And that's what you should always be suspicious
look
of.
at why, if this is such a big deal, which is not a big deal, because
Yeah.
my
What's
fear
really
is
going on?
the biggest problem isn't the gay people. I think the biggest problem is the lack of common sense. Because when you sit here and look at this, they're going after drag queens. They're going at it's a bigger problem. Like, you can't go to Florida. This is what scares me. I can't go to Florida with my kid, because if my daughter looks a little too boyish, they could threaten to take my kid because they think I'm giving a gender affirming care. This is a lot bigger than just a drag queen. This is not just about drag queen. This is about trying to remove a whole culture of people, of transgender people. So I think that's the bigger picture. And people, so while everybody's focused on, don't read in front of my kids, but we could steal your kids. We could take your kids. Don't read to my kids. Don't bring these queens over here. That's what I think the agenda is. If they could stop the young from transitioning, if they could stop it, They think they can stop transgender people from existing, and you can't.
We've
You can't.
existed
They're going to
for-
eventually transition. Just because you're not letting it happen now doesn't mean it's not ever going to happen. It's still going to happen.
Right.
So that's what but I don't know. I could be wrong. But to me,
And
that's the
kids
bigger.
And it
don't
feels
always
like that-
transition.
and it
Kids,
fe-
they just sometimes give them drugs to pause.
It's
their-
just right. Exactly.
It feels like the oldest form of oppression that there is, right? What did they do to Native Americans? Took them from their families
Mhm.
and then tried to teach the Indian out of them, right?
Yep.
Don't let people use their language. Don't let them associate with their community. Force down their throat a culture that's not theirs.
Right.
Demand that they accept it. Fucking A, man. It's 2023. And I'm not apologizing for my language.
Right.
This is crazy.
Yeah, it's completely nuts.
Sadly,
And some of the laws that have been passed in Africa that have just,
yeah.
are you kidding me?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And they're not. It is no joke.
No, I actually talked to a guy, a trans,
terrible.
we'll just say a trans guy in Africa, and it's terrible. I don't even know how to help him. You know what I mean? I don't even know how to help him. And
we're notorious because history is going to continue to repeat itself because we don't learn. That's the problem. And like even with this government, so what? Now it's trans kids. We could go all through history.
Yeah.
This is nothing new. It's just because it just has to keep happening because they have to have control. That's what it boils down to. They have to have control.
Control and power, which is we come back to Pluto, where we began this whole thing.
Right.
Pluto and Capricorn, and just that's where, that's why I'm like, with the way trans kids and generally people are fighting for all kinds of gender bending things, it changes our system. But I also noticed that that Aquarius is very like anyone with strong Aquarius placements is usually at least an ally if they're not queer themselves. And I rarely do I meet a person that's Aquarius that's not, and if they do, they have weird placements or a square or something like that. But it's an interesting thing, and I noticed that, like, look at all the millennials that are very like, what the hell are y'all talking about? Get out of here with this. That they're queer. Who cares? Shut up. Right? That's millennials, and millennials, most of them have Saturn in Aquarius. So they're just like, what the hell's wrong with you people? So I just think it's gonna change. It's got to change.
Yeah, and unfortunately, usually the biggest fight is at the very end, right? So
just like with gay marriage, it took us a long time to get there, but we finally got there. Like, I don't even know how long that fight was, and we're still kind of fighting for it. So this will probably be going on for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
At least the three of us,
Right.
Maybe somebody in their 20s might see the end of this.
Yeah, and that would be nice.
Please.
But in the meantime, be like the deer.
Yeah.
Grow that herd. Make it big.
Go to Pride, friends. Go to Pride.
I don't think I've ever seen a deer population that anywhere near that big. I've definitely seen herds of hundreds, and the elk, which we often see at the bottom of the mountain. It's different times of years. You'll see them, and hundreds of elk. They really traveled in a big herd together, especially coming in and out of the winter. I've noticed.
It blew my mind when I saw 10,000. I said, "This can't be right. Like 1,000." Come on. And
Do they leave messages for each other?
I'm assuming, I don't know. I didn't go into too much detail, but I did go back, and no, it said 10. They can go up to. Not every herd is 10,000, but a herd can go up to about 10,000.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah, I could see that happening out in the wilderness somewhere. So, guys, I've used the Love is Love deck. This is a Pride deck that you can easily get online. And it's each one of the pieces of art are done by a different LGBTQ artist. And so the first card that I got that's reference to our past, this is the let me try to make it bigger for you. This is the Nine of Swords. So this card, yeah, you can go by the traditional meaning if you want, but for me, I usually go by the pictures, okay? And this picture tells me a lot about our connection to ourselves and to bringing our full selves, becoming whole again. And that's really what this is about. This is a reminder of how you've had to come through to pull yourself together, to make yourself whole again. We've all had to do something. Trauma tends to tear us apart, regardless of what kind of trauma you've gone through. But this right here is a reminder of how you've pulled yourself back together again, how you've started to put the pieces back intact. Probably, I bet you, involved Mother Nature somehow. Mother Nature usually plays a pretty big part in helping us heal. And so, in fact, she provides everything we need. I truly believe that. And so you can see that this person is out in nature. Their body is kind of see-through. And a lot of us can feel that way when we're traumatized, We can feel kind of see-through or invisible or lacking impact in our world. But this is about the colors that start to come back and what has made you whole. And that's in your past. And going forward and in the here and now, this is the King of Cups. This is the King of Cups about our emotions and our thoughts and our feelings, especially things that are overwhelming. And you can see this sailboat here on his head, on this person's head, that has the rainbow flag on it, and with all the birds flying around, and that can be kind of intense in the sailboat thing, especially if a boat was on your head, right? And so I think of this one as like, when we start thinking about the whole gay community, everything that's happened in our past and how we've overcome and how far we've come, it was a riot once, and we've talked about that riot here on Rainbow Soul before. And I'm just saying that, pride means something different every year in different ways, and tends to show how much we've grown each year. And when you start looking at prides, and maybe you're like old like me and lose count of how many, you can start to recognize how we're growing and how we've changed and evolved. And that's what this is about. This is about the emotional change and the emotional like coming into play. You can see that in their hands are fishes, and fishes can often represent like sustenance and resource, right? And so we have the resources, we have all we need within us. And that's kind of what this is. It's a reminder that we have everything we need within us, including, especially when we're dealing with these heavy emotional things, right? And this is the future. And I love this card because this is like, I don't know, this is like some drag scene in my brain for some reason. I don't know if it's because it's the angel, or if it's just the people down here, the angel-like characters down here at the bottom, but they feel like they're trying to do the right thing, right? Like the right thing is supposed to happen, and that's what Judgment card always feels like. It feels like that finally a judgment will be made, usually in a positive way, especially considering the rest of the cards. So I just want to say that know that you will be seen in the light, that people will see you for who you are and see you for the goodness in which you are and the good intention that you had, even if you're not perfect, right? None of us are perfect. So remember, my friends, that first of all, in the past, there was a part of you that had to overcome and bring yourself back, to restore a part of yourself, and that has come back in, And as we go forward and the emotions are heavy on our soul and on our minds, and we might find ourselves really reflecting on some of the emotional ways that we've come a long way in the LGBTQ community and also personally, remember your resources and remember that you have all you need within you and that you will always be seen in the light and that good things are happening all the time. And in fact, I come back to my favorite quote, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should.
Very good. Good reading. Good reading.
Oops.
Good one.
How do I? Oh, okay. There we go. All right, my friends. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Hopefully that helps everybody, and let us know in the comments how this is impacting you. If you have strong Taurus placements or Leo placements, I'm real curious how that's going for you. And we really appreciate you sharing it.
Yeah, and comment. We've noticed. I've noticed we're very popular on YouTube. So YouTube Podcasts has picked us up, and so if you're a YouTuber, you might want to catch us there too. And it's easy format to comment and interact with. So I appreciate that, and of course you can share it as well. So
thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
Yep. Have a good week.
bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's Soulstrology and subscribing, liking, sharing, and reviewing. We hope you enjoyed this dose of Soulstrology and encourage you to embrace the week ahead with an open mind and heart so that you may integrate the deepest of lessons from the stars. Take a moment to step outside and honor the planets, stars, and moon in the sky with your heart. Integrate the messages that resonate and leave the rest for someone else. We deeply appreciate each and every one of you. Always remember that you are a perfectly unique human with an exclusive star map of your destiny, your soul purpose, and your heart's desire. Thank you again for tuning in to Rainbow Soul.